Welcome back to On the Clock, our show about making the moments matter. I'm your host, Elisa Gums. Today, we're chatting about getting out of your own way with Vernice K. Bell, the CEO of marketing agency 1843 LLC. She's a brand strategist and a transformation coach who helps entrepreneurs get unstuck and grow their businesses. Vernice, we're so excited to have you on the Clock. How are you?
I am doing absolutely amazing. Alyssa, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So I want to start with how you came to be doing this work. I don't think anyone is like, when I grow up, I want to be a transformation coach. Can you tell us a little bit about your professional background and what led you here?
Oh, wow. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I agree with you. Like, I didn't wake up and say, you know what? I'm going to transform people, right? Actually, I started my career as a young adult in the U.S. Army. So I actually served 8 years active duty U.S. Army. And as a leader in the military, you learn a lot about what it takes to help make somebody a whole person. And I served 8 years there, and then after my tour in the military, I did one tour to Afghanistan as a soldier, and a tour to Germany. But after I was done, I went to corporate America, and in corporate America, it was really like, wow, I really can help people more if I bring and integrate my military background into what I do, and it just kind of trickled over. So so then after serving in the military, and then working in corporate America, I went on my own journey to starting my own business. And I really just wanted to help people build websites. I'm like, I'm great at that. I can do it, and it's gonna make me good money. And I was like, but after I would make them websites, I'm like, why are they making money? And then I started helping them transform, and that's kind of how it started. Like it's like segmented things that just got pulled together to help me get started in there. So that's how I became a transformational coach.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. And we love to hear those stories of successful transitions out of the military and using all of that amazing experience that you gained there to help back at home you build your own business and other people build theirs. So thank you for that. I'm so looking forward to delving into this topic of getting out of your own way. I was actually just talking about it this past weekend with some of the women in my life. Do you find that this is an issue for most of the people that you coach?
Oh, you starting with the tricky ones, Alyssa. Yeah, like I found that um the biggest distance between people with where they are and where they want to be is how much work they're willing to do on themselves. So it's like that is like, if I had to point out one thing that everybody has in common, is them being in their own way. Whether they think too much about it, they don't think enough about it. They think too much about a situation, they don't think enough about a situation, or they do and then they're unwilling to act, or they overact, right? And it's just like, at the end of the day, it all boils down to just being in your own way. So, yeah.
I think that a lot of the time when people are in their own way, we don't even realize that that's what's going on.
Mm.
So, can you share some of the ways that it manifests in people's lives and in their businesses? Like, what are some signs that women should be looking for that they are the obstacle to their own progress?
So, okay, so two parts, the answer to that. Okay, so one is, um, one of the ways that you can realize that you're getting in your own way is by actually measuring where you are now versus where you were a year ago, right? So if you are in the same place, if you're still working on the exact same micro goals, not the big goal, if you're still working on the same micro goals or macro goals that you were working on last year, that could be a sign that you're in your own way. Another sign that manifests physically is if you find yourself, excuse me, ladies, I love you so much, but if you find yourself gaining unwanted weight. Okay. That's one of the key signs that, hey, I am not paying attention to myself and I'm in my own way. And as you said, Alyssa, like most people don't even know they're in their own way. So let me tell you how I had backdoor people. Okay. I had the back door to ladies. Because every successful woman that I've coached, or someone who was encroaching on being successful, they all felt like they didn't need a coach.
Mm,
They all felt like, hey, I don't need a coach. I'm doing great. I'm making my money. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm married. I got my kids. You're right. The picket fence, the dog, right? So they didn't feel like they were in their own way. So how I kind of like backdoored them a little bit is I started hosting this event called Makeup and Mimosas, which really was a personal development event. But who can say no to learning about makeup, and who could say no to mimosas? Right? Those are two very amazing things. So once I got them there, I was able to actually do a deep dive and uncover a little bit of the stuff that was getting in, having them put their own feet in front of themselves, like stop them. You know how they used to say you can't see the forest from the trees,
hmm.
right? But helping them pull back just a little bit, focus on themselves, and then they were able to uncover some things that were blocking them from getting to where they wanted to be.
Wow. I think both of the things that you said earlier are so important because a lot of us who are ambitious, who are goal oriented, who are focused on achieving, don't always look backward. So we're not necessarily the best at like measuring our progress or
Right.
even sometimes, like writing down our progress or what's happened in between. So the first thing is that you've got to measure where you are if you want to be
Yes.
able to see what you're saying from last year to this year. So I think that's an
Absolutely.
important point for everyone out there. And so is the weight or other physical changes because it means that you're not really aware of what's going on with
Right.
yourself,
I,
right?
I, yeah, Alyssa, I think it's important to highlight the unwanted
Right.
changes, because sometimes we do want to change. Like for me, I'm happy with the weight that I am, and I want to gain 5 more pounds, right? But if it's unwanted, that's when we have to really kind of take a step back and say, and do a self evaluation. Like, who am I? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to be? And am I on track to go there? But most people don't measure it. So yeah.
Yeah. So once they have that aha moment that they're not want where they want to be and that they're the person who's standing in the way of that change, what do you suggest as a first step?
Ooh. Okay. Well, here's the thing. I think most people who realize they're in their own way still blame it on other people. Like, I think just because you realize that you're the problem doesn't mean that you actually admit that you're the problem, right? So, one of the first things that you can do is in becoming self aware is have acknowledgement and do a self analysis, right? Where you actually acknowledge to yourself, hey, listen, I am in my way, right? When you can admit it to yourself, acknowledge it within self, that's the first step to becoming more aware of who you actually are. So that would be the first thing that I would tell somebody to do. But also, here's another thing: you have to analyze your circle. You have to analyze the people who are closest to you, and it's like a bullseye, like where you have the center ring, which is really dark, a filled in circle, and then you have the outer rings, not a bullseye. Let me say Saturn. Saturn has rings. Saturn's rings, right?
Yes.
Is it Jupiter? I think both of actually, when I did the research, I think both of them have rings, actually. But
Saturn is
anyways,
the one everyone talks about. So we'll go with Saturn.
let's go with Saturn.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, right. I'm like, yeah, but when you think about the rings of Saturn, they're not all. The only way that you can see them is because they have distance in between. And so, with you being the center or the center planet, the juice, you have to analyze what are the rings around you and which are the closest, right? So you want to take an accountability and taking not accountability, but you want to take an assessment of the people that are closest to you in those different rings and make sure that they're appropriate. So probably who you want to have in your center ring, the ring that is closest to you, is your accountant. Hello, amen.
You're
Right?
like, wait, we're just going to start with the money and get it right.
Because money doesn't fix everything, but it fixes everything.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just saying. But so you want to make sure your accountant is there. You want to make sure that whatever religious beliefs you have a trusted advisor from that department there. You want to make sure you have your physical fitness person or counterpart there, and you want to have your closest authority figures, the people that hold you accountable. You want to make sure that they're in the closest ring to you, because they're going to make sure that they're doing their part in your life, right? Because everybody has a role in each other's lives. And so as long as you have your closest ring, as long as they are the people who are your trusted people, who are going to places maybe where you want to go, or they're accomplish things that you want to accomplish in some facet or walk of life, they're going to keep you accountable and abreast of becoming who you want to be.
Okay. I like that. Um, as we're talking about, your inner circle, I just mentioned that I was talking about this this weekend with some of my closest friends, and one of them said that the way she was able to get out of her own way was that she started embracing the evidence of her ability, the positive
Ooh.
feedback she got from other people, the small wins. So, what would you suggest in terms of things that we can leverage or tools that we already have at our disposal to help us when we realize that we're the reason we're stuck?
Oh, well, I think two things with that. One is you have to learn to become self-reliant, right? Because the when I say self-reliant, I mean less conditional. Because once you start to measure those, and I'm not saying don't measure them, but you got to use it with as a you got to take it with a grain of salt. Because once you start using your goals or the small wins as a source of happiness, then when you're not accomplishing those, and when you go through those seasons where maybe it is a little bit rough and you aren't hitting those targets, you aren't hitting those goals, then you start to look for success in those goals or in the small wins, and you're not getting there. And so what does that happen? So what happens there? That can send you on a roller coaster of depression, self-hate, and not really, and insecurities, to be honest.
Mhm.
So taking it with a grain of salt, to where it's like, okay, one, I do have these goals, but two, can I generate my own happiness? Can I generate happiness that is outside of getting an award? Can I generate a happiness that's outside of my children making an accomplishment? Can I generate beauty outside of my spouse telling me you're gorgeous today? Can I be the source of my happiness outside of the wins, outside of society, outside of the social norms? And really taking the time to say, okay, yes, I did win at this, so I can measure those, but let me use the energy from measuring those to start becoming my own source of happiness across all levels. That's how you become untouchable.
That's a big word that you just said there. I mean, I was listening and I'm like, "Yep, I'm with you. Can I become the source of my own happiness?" But then when you sit and think about that, that's like a big, big thing to do. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I know there isn't like one easy answer to how we become the source of our own happiness, but if you had to sort of put it into um, a small bite for someone about how you even begin to become the source of your own happiness, what would you say?
I would say, how let me ask let me hold on a second. That was a juicy one, Alyssa. um how do you start? Okay, so there's this exercise that I do with my tribe. I call it my tribe, right? My sisters to the left and the right of me. I use the word coach, but I'm really like a big sister, right? Because
Mhm.
like I really wrap my arms around my folks and give them the love and nurturing that they need. So from that standpoint, there's one specific thing that I do with my tribe that I'm going to share, and it's a forgiveness task. And
Mhm.
what you do is you look directly into the mirror at yourself, and you could be with or without clothing. You could be with or without clothing, right? Because this is between you and you.
Right.
And you look into the mirror and you tell yourself, I forgive you. I forgive you. And then you say your name. So if I were you, Alyssa, I'd look in the mirror and say, Alyssa, I forgive you. I forgive you. Right? Or I'd say my name, Vernice, I forgive you. And you say it to yourself because in order for you to become your source of own happiness, most times we have to get out our own way. But we don't have the courage to forgive ourselves. We want to forgive the parents, the spouse, the teachers, the policeman that gave us a ticket yesterday. We'll forgive them, right? But we won't forgive ourselves. And so, for you to become the source of your happiness, you first have to forgive yourself for the things that you did wrong to yourself, with yourself, for yourself. And once you can do that, it releases so many feelings and emotions. Now, listen, disclaimer, y'all, don't do this before you go to work, okay? Do not do this before you go to work,
That's
okay?
not
Because
the time, huh? It's
it's
not the
not
time.
the time. This is when you're on your self-care time, right? When you're doing that self-care, self-maintenance, then that is the time where you take a look in the mirror and do the exercise.
I love that you gave that disclaimer because when we start getting into this personal development work, a lot of things come up that we weren't necessarily expecting, sometimes that we weren't prepared for. And that leads me to my next question because I know clarity is one of the big things that you work on with your clients. And I'd love
Mhm.
for you to share some of the ways that women executives and women entrepreneurs can gain clarity about what they truly want out of their professional lives.
Ooh, you know what? You know what? The people, your tribe, I'm gonna call your tribe that watches this, y'all are in for it. Because if you would just do a little piece of the work, you're gonna have a super transformation, okay? Within this last quarter of the year. But here's the thing. Um, it goes back to um, measuring. It goes back to measuring who you are and where you want to be. And I know it seems like a scapegoat answer, but it's really not. Because one of the things that you will find out once you start doing personal assessment is that you have patterns, right?
Mhm.
And so one of the things that I tell my tribe to do is keep a journal, even if you just write one word, because you know you get on those things where you write for 3 months and then your journal don't see you for another six, right? So just pick it up, write one word. Right, right. So just pick up your journal and write one word in it, and then what you'll see is over the years, right, or over the months, you'll see where you have months of where you're more relaxed, months of where you're super uh uh what's the word, on target, where you're hitting all your goals. You'll have months where you're in love. You'll have months when you're analyzing, and you will see your pattern. And once you start to see your pattern, I'm telling you, you will become untouchable. Like, because you'll know your seasons. You'll know your seasons. And once you know your seasons, you're in there, sis. You're in there.
There are a couple of things you talk about on your website that I want to ask about. One is that you help clients sign their own permission slip to play big. And so I have to ask you, why do you think that some of us women have such a hard time giving ourselves permission to do the things that we dream of? And what can we do about that?
Oh, ooh, oh Lord. So here's the thing. A lot of times when we're this goes back to our little selves, right? And the way it works is this. Like, you don't, okay, I'm 25, y'all. I'm gonna be forever 25, okay? I'm 25 again. I'm 25 again. But you don't just wake up 25, right? Or like I'm 40. I'm actually 40, but we ain't gonna tell nobody else, okay? Don't be telling my business. If I find out that you're telling my business, y'all,
You hear that, everyone out there, shush.
don't tell my business, okay? But what happens is you don't wake up one day and you're 40. You have those different layers of who you are. You have year 1, year 2, year 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40. You have all those layers that are you. So what happens is you start to accumulate the you can't, you shouldn't, you will not, you cannot. You start to accumulate those, and then when you arrive to 40 and you decide, oh, I saw Vernice, I got some clarity, I want to go and do this thing in my life, I want to go and do that thing in my life. Once then you get there and you're like, but I can't, but I don't, but I won't, right? And so the idea is that once you can start to release those I can'ts, and you're willing to go back and have in your mind, y'all, not outside, right, but in your mind, when you're able to go back to maybe when you were 10 and you heard that first no, you can't, you heard that you can't be a dancer, or you that's not a real career. Because my mom, I swear to y'all, she wanted me to be a lawyer or a doctor, and I didn't want to be either one of those. Okay, neither one, right? But I had a sense of I can't from when I was young. So I had to go back inside of me and have a conversation with that 10-year old that got told, no, you can't be a dancer, right? And I had to say, you know what? It's okay. Can we move on from this now? And I decided that I could within myself. Then I was able to move on. So the thing about us is, and there's something that I do inside of a workshop where I actually have them write these things down, and then write the things down that they were told they could not do.
Mm.
You can't be a dancer. You can't be a singer. You can't sing, child. I swear to goodness, like if I feel like if my voice was I play too much. But when I was little, I used to be
The
singing
album
around
is
the
dropping
house.
next. Is that what you're trying to say?
I used to be singing around the house. My mom would be like, girl, you can't sing, right? Girl, you can't sing, right? But I feel like if they would have told me I could sing when I was young, like I still wouldn't be a singer. But anyways, nonetheless, I have my tribe write down what are some of the things that you heard repeatedly in your life that you could not do. Write those things down and then say, I can do it, right? I can be, do, and have anything I choose, but first I must choose. And so we write that down. That's one of my favorite things to say. I can be, do, and have anything I choose, but first I must choose. We write that down, and that becomes the permission slip for them to say, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can take a dance class at 40. Yes, I can learn to play tennis or the piano or the guitar at 45, at 55, at 60. Yes, I can. And so when we go through that exercise, and I personally give them permission, like, listen, I'm going to give you permission right now until you can give yourself permission.
Mm.
So I'm gonna let you hold my permission until you can give yourself permission. And I found that to be one of the most releasing exercises ever, helping them release and say, I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that you tell women is to put the fear in their pocket and do it anyway. We can't talk about transformation without addressing the very real fear of change that keeps many of us stuck in unhappy places. So,
Yeah.
what are some of the ways we can work through that fear?
Okay. I love, listen, your team did they research on it, because listen, I love put the fear in your pocket. And okay, so let me give y'all the disclaimer about that, right? Not disclaimer, but the background. Like people, you hear these people, these great giants that say, get rid of the fear, release the fear, release the fear. Well, I feel like fear is one of those things that kept me alive, right? Fear is what keeps you from not touching the stove because it's hot, keeps you from not jumping off of things that are really high because you might hurt yourself. Fear in its appropriate place will save your life. But fear in places where it's not appropriate can block you from living the best life. So one of the things that I do is say, ask yourself when you're in front of a situation, will this hurt me? Is it immoral? Is it unethical? If it's not, you need to do it, right? And so one of so that's the first thing, is to ask yourself these questions. Is it immoral? Is it unethical? Will it hurt me? If it's none of those things, then the next step is to say, okay, fear, and literally say fear. Do it with me, Alyssa. Come on, say fear into your hands.
Fear.
Like, okay, fear, and we're grabbing the fear,
Got it.
right? And then ball it up, right? And put it in your pocket. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. And so what do you do after that is now you can move forward. And it does, and it's not as scary as trying to get release it all together, because that's something we were born with. Nobody went to Best Buy, Circus City, Saks Fifth Avenue, and said, "Can I have a bottle of fear, please? Let me get a bottle of your best fear." No one's done that. So we were born with it as a tool to keep us safe, but in an appropriate place, it does you no justice. So we got to put it in our pocket until we need it, right?
Got it.
So that's how we put it in our pocket so we can move on.
You have given us so much good wisdom today. Before we go, is there anything else you would like the women watching to know about shifting their mindset so they can change their lives?
Yes. So, uh, geez, somebody cutting onions or something. Anyways, here's the thing. For me, like 1843, 1843 is literally the timestamp of when my father passed away. My father transitioned at 6:43 p.m. And for me, is the moment that made me realize, like, what is there more? I had the house, the fiance, the cars, the dog, the kids. Everything was amazing. The job, everything, not job. I had a career, let me say. Everything was amazing. I'm like, but is there more? Is this it? Because growing up, they told me that's all you need: the husband, the kids, the job, and then that's it, right? And I realized that there was so much more to life. And so with me helping other women transform, helping other women and men transform, actually, I've just learned to share my pain from that moment at 1843. So 1843 is me literally saying, Alyssa, borrow my pain from that moment that made me want to live my life on purpose and intentionally forever. I'm going to let you hold my pain, sis, so you can stand on it and get to your next level. So for all of the listeners, everybody that's the tribe, if you're reading whatever, if you're within the sound or my energy field right now, I'm lending you my pain from the moment 1843 so you can stand on it and build your next self, because the world needs you. The world needs you to do that thing that you were born to do in a way that you were born to do it. No one else can do what you were born to do. So that's my final words. You can be, do, and have anything you choose, but first, let's just choose.
This has been so satisfying. Thank you so much, Vernice, for sharing the unique ways you're helping people make the tough changes that will let them make the most of the time we've been given. And thank you all for watching On the Clock. We'll see you next time as we continue to talk about working with purpose and living with passion.